somewhere down there. I haven't looked it up. I think I told him to get here like 11:45.
Hello,
Hello.
hello. Welcome to
Afternoon.
episode 109 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos, joined by my friends Trell and Tettles, as always.
Yeah, we kind of had a conversation going.
I'm sorry for
we had to-
interrupting. Yeah.
Sorry for having a conversation going about lunch tomorrow.
Dude, I cannot believe just how often I have to hear about you guys, living in the same city now and having lunch and
You
stuff.
want to come? Yeah, you want to fly over?
This
Hit the
week we're
PJ.
joined. This week we're joined by special guest JPC the man. Hello, welcome JPC.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So for those who don't know who JPC is, JPC rogue player extraordinaire, main rogue, advocate for the rogue community. Even this started playing really just this expansion, right? As well.
Yeah, this would be my first serious expansion. I've played for a long time, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is the first expansion that definitely, joining an MDI team, for instance, and a key pushing team, Ambition, the last stand winners. So, congratulations to you on that one.
Thank you. Excited we get to show up to Global Finals for a pretty interesting bracket we've got. So, yep.
Yeah, that will be one of our many topics on the show today. We'll also talk about just the last stand tournament in general, because that was something that happened last weekend. It was pretty exciting. The whole MDI finals leading up to it, and the experience of competing in the MDI, the lore of yourself having started out, recently and getting pretty high end. I mean, also rating with complexity limit as well, right?
Yep, that was a big step forward. So that's been pretty fun so far too.
Flashpoint KTB got US 5th.
Yeah, that was a great tier for them. That was actually, it was a lot of fun raiding with those guys. I still message a lot of them all the time.
That's awesome. And also, I think it should be noted for anyone listening to this episode, JPC is probably the fastest person to ever go from casual to one of the top tier MDI teams I've ever seen. So this is like, a lot of people ask us all the time, how do you go from casual? How do you get to higher levels in World of Warcraft? Well, this is probably the episode for you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a very interesting story that I'm sure a lot of people have something they can take from it. Before we get into all that stuff, though, we do have some minor news to cover. News is sort of starting to peter out. I'm a little bit surprised there hasn't been more news about when 9.1.5 is, if that's still coming. Is there going to be any?
Is there going to be a 9.2? Class balance changes.
But we did get one drop of blue post, which is about Legion dungeons, which we had the honor of doing a couple of those a few weeks back on PTR. We did most of the dungeons. Actually, we did all of them, but we couldn't get through the first bit of Neltharian's Lair. Anyways, what they did is they turned off Azurite gear and essences. So people keep asking about Legion dungeons, about whether you can use old expansion stuff, and basically the basic answer is they don't intend for you to be able to. And it's not supposed to be that kind of time locking, I guess. And then they are not looking to drastically change the feel of the dungeons, but they're open to changing some things to better match modern player expectations. For instance, the Legion dungeons had these active mitigation mechanics. I don't know if you remember them, where they would do something extra bad if they hit a tank that didn't have active mitigation up.
Last boss of Nelth Lair would launch your tank across the planet if you didn't have active mid up.
Yeah.
One of them put a huge slow on you. I remember I was thinking about that when I saw the blue post, because a lot of the tank mitigation abilities have changed names, and I bet they just weren't coded correctly anymore. So that's probably what they did that.
So they say snapping fixes could be a part of that. I actually don't think that they should fix the snapping. So the only dungeon right now that really has snapping that is currently used is Darkheart Thicket. And you snap cats, and you can potentially snap bats into the last boss room. And so there are a couple of pulls that you have to do, but I don't know if they should change the core functionality of how those mobs work in there.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that either. I think I think they would, if anything, they would just make it work how snapping works now, where it still exists. They just hang out for a little bit, evade, and then port, evade some more, and then they're active again.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job of killing snapping as like a big strategy this expansion, right? Like last expansion, I remember you did it in a lot of dungeons, and it was good. And they with the whole like evading on both sides, I think that's enough to make it so that you only do it in a couple spots. Do you really need it for Darkheart to be balanced? Maybe, because the cats are really nasty, I guess, if they're leaping on your whole group.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could just fix that by making the cats less nasty. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they could just instead they could have just coded the cats to where if they were stopped by something like Typhoon or Vortex, then they wouldn't actually deal damage. They would just be pulled back to their original position, because that's how a lot of mobs these days work.
The big news
JPC did the dungeons.
Yeah.
Did you have anything, like, as somebody who has done them for like almost the first time ever, did you notice anything where they were like, oh, this needs to be fixed?
Not particularly. It seemed like Shroud probably has a lot more value back during those days than it does today.
True, actually.
I noticed that. There were certain mobs in certain dungeons where I don't know if we were just pulling small or what, but it seemed like okay, we need to deal with this thing like one at a time, which I don't know. That's fine to me. I guess it's just like dungeon design. I didn't really have any complaints with most of the dungeons, to be honest. They're pretty fun.
I wonder if
Yeah.
they could like rebalance count. Like, I wonder if that's something that they would potentially look to do.
Yeah. That was one part that was weird. Like, I remember in 2 of the dungeons we would have ended up having like 115% count or something. So that seems a bit strange.
Yeah, that was a big thing back then.
Yeah. The thing that's not really in a bullet point, but is probably the most important part of this as well, is reducing the difficulty of the dungeons by approximately 3 keystone levels from that build that we were playing on. We did the keys at 15, and like they were hard.
Yeah.
I think we depleted a couple of them.
We depleted like at least half, yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
And so, I think on live we probably could have been doing like, I don't know, without too much of a chance of depletion. I'm pretty sure we could have been doing like a 20, right? Like do a 20 and we almost certainly time and maybe 2 chests those on live. Now some of that is like unfamiliarity with the mechanics, but I think definitely like just like in the Legion dungeons, there are a couple of mobs or bosses that are just really hard and like really, really hard. Like they hit really hard on the tank, they hit really hard on the whole group. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be interested to see if they just kind of leave it in a Wild West state, or if they actually go through and like really try to bring everything into line.
I think that like I felt like the amount of damage that we were doing relative to the timer was fine. Like the timer was never going to be a problem on a 15 for us. But God, those bosses, we would just like wipe the bosses randomly, and it's just like, I got one shot. Darn.
That was the Legion experience, right? The Legion experience was like, okay, we need defensive trinkets, right, to use on this possibility. We need to...
Did you have your Pride Eyes on?
Yeah, exactly, get Pride Eyes. So yeah.
Wait, did they have gear swapping in when you guys tested?
No.
Oh.
No. They're not gonna... Also, any old Legion legendaries, those don't work or anything. There's no, like, time walking up. So you can't just use the same, like, solutions that we had in Legion for the problems. It's got to be with the current gear sets and something that doesn't rely on gear swapping to make a pull work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no sky steps there are some pulls that not having a sky step to do some of those pulls actually is like really tough as well.
Oh yeah, I was trying to think of like all the pulls in Black Ark Hold that I use sky step for,
Right.
and that like there's like no way you could do it without that bop in some cases.
So to bring the dungeons from Legion more in line with current dungeons, they're just going to reduce the cooldown of Sky Step to a minute again, and increase the speed back up to whatever it was.
150.
Yeah, 150.
It's 70 now. It used to be 150.
So sad.
I'd be so happy if they did that for live. Oh my god, I miss that.
All right.
JPC needs them too for Shroud.
Yeah.
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 Keep it up.
We've actually been some MDI pulls where we have tried the 70% speed potion, and it's like it has made the pull slightly easier, but it's just not worth losing a potion
Yeah, it's
for
just
it.
like so barely noticeable, right?
Yeah.
It's just sad.
It's very sad compared to like what it used to feel like to hit Sky Step, and make a pull real easy. But that's okay. We move on. Speaking of moving on, let's start with main topic number 1 here, which is the Last Stand tournament that happened last weekend, which was sort of this hybrid between the Great Push and like usual MDI, where all the teams had the same set of dungeons as each other at set key levels, unlike the Great Push where you were pushing them up, and you were just trying to get the fastest like time across all 6 of those dungeons. And this was for all the teams that hadn't yet gotten a spot into Global Finals, one last chance to get one of those spots. So how did you enjoy playing in that, JPC? Was it a fun tournament for you? I mean, obviously you ended up winning, so that must have been pretty fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I think from the player's perspective, I would always prefer this style of tournament to the head-to-head, but it was challenging. Certain affix combinations and key level combinations, and effectively what it was like our MDI practice, but just like televised or streamed. And like the Sanguine Depths was pretty hard. The Spires it was a little frustrating with bolstering. But all in all, I do think that this format from the player's perspective is better. But interestingly, when I watched it back, I didn't necessarily think that, like, I thought Great Push was great to watch. Like, I really enjoyed watching Great Push. But when I watched the MDI using that format, I don't know, I just didn't like it as much. But to play it, I enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah, I think one definite like challenge with the format is how do you make it interesting to basically watch people just practice MDI pulls and then eventually get them right. Whereas Great Push is like, most of the time, especially on the first couple days, most of those keys were successful, or like, they'd restart it and there's a good chance they'd succeed the next time instead of, you try it 10 times, you only need to succeed once, which was kind of how this format worked.
Yeah.
I do think that if you had like all of the world-class teams, if you had like all of the teams that are going to Global Finals right now, like set up in this format, it would be a lot more competitive for days 1 and 2. Because I actually very much agree with what you said. I think that day 3 was the only day that was like super competitive and very enjoyable to watch through and through. But I think that days 1 and 2 were just pretty slow at some parts of them.
One idea I had heard was kind of like a hybrid of both, where you only allow 2 dungeons to be played per day, and then at the end of each day, the bottom 2 teams are eliminated, and then you go on to another set of 2 dungeons with 2 less teams, and then 2 more eliminated, and so on. And then that way you get a little bit of that head-to-head, or at least everyone's still in the same dungeon. You can kind of see them doing similar pulls. But I think the big thing was, like, with the Great Push, there are... in high keys in general, there's only usually like maybe 2 to 4 hard pulls in the entire dungeon. And so like your odds of success are way higher. Like you just want to time the key. And whereas with MDI, like every single pull is a hard pull. So you go in there and then you reset it 30 seconds later. And then you go in there and you reset it 30 seconds later. And it's just, I don't know, it's a bit tough, but yeah.
Probably exhausting too, right? Because it's just always high stakes pulls.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No breaks.
Definitely 5 hours of 5 hours of playing video games could do that every day, right? But 5 hours of like, high intensity MDI pulls is really tough, definitely. I have one thing that I think is one of the most interesting things about this format is like the strategy of deciding where to go and how to budget your time and like figuring out what you were going to do. How much of those sorts of decisions had you planned in advance versus how much did you have to like figure out after the affixes came out? How much did those affix reveals and keystone level reveals affect your plan?
Well, we basically started out with a similar approach as we took for the Great Push, which is where we were just going to do the easiest or most similar to what we had experienced before combinations of affixes. The dungeon wasn't really important to us. It was more so like, for example, in Necrotic Wake, although it was spiteful, that doesn't really change too much to have the spiteful, right? So we knew that was going to be like a good one to start on. Same with Theater. Theater was inspiring Quaking, and I think we had inspiring Grievous, so it was pretty similar in that way. So that was like for day 1, and then after we finished the first 5 hours, we looked and we had seen that China had gone to Spires. And so we had some plans for what we would do in the affixes that weren't similar to the ones we had practiced, but we mainly looked to see if teams had done dungeons different than we had. Like, okay, we could use that poll. We hadn't thought of this idea. Like, let's try and incorporate that. So that was our main approach.
Yeah, that sort of leads me into a question we got here from Chris on Twitter, who asked, what exactly was those 17 hours between sessions? Like, how did you actually spend that time? How much of it were you spending focused on the tournament? And, how much of it was like watching what the other team's been up to the day before versus looking at MDT versus like, could you practice stuff on live at all usefully?
So normally right after we finished playing, we would take like about a 2-hour break, go get some food, whatever, watch that day and see if we noticed anything. And then we would come back and we would share some ideas that we had or things we wanted to change about the dungeons that we did do. And we would talk about that for a while on MDT. And then I do remember towards like after maybe like an hour or two, we would go into the dungeons that we hadn't been in yet. And we would literally stand there on an M0 and be like, pretend like we were doing it. Like we would start a poll and then we would be like, okay, Onesie, you need to ring in 3 seconds. And then he would ring the mob with like 30k health or whatever. And we would do it as if to try and simulate as close as possible. Of course, it's not going to be the exact same, but yeah, we did that for Spires. We did that for DOS. We did that for Sanguine Depths. So yeah, and then we would just try to go to bed early and we'd get up like an hour or two. We'd get up like an hour, or at least we're all on Discord call like an hour before it would start. And we would just go back through everything again, like everyone's assignments that we had thought of the night before, stuff like that.
How much did you like plan? So obviously for day one, you just kind of have to go into the dungeons that look most like you can have some good 5 hours in them. How much did you know how you were going to budget your time on day 2 and day 3 in advance?
Well, we had certain goals that like we knew we had a certain order of things we wanted to do things in. We all probably would have liked for them to take less time than they did, but of course that's sort of always how it goes. But for example, like we finished day 1 with an okay necrotic wake, a really good theater, and an okay halls and an okay DOS. So we were looking at it like, and then Spires was the bolstering. So we knew that the DOS would be an easy time save because we didn't kill the totem. So that was going to be pretty high priority. And then we had to get Spires taken care of. And then after that, we knew, okay, now we need to go back into Necrotic Wake and we need to go back into halls. But we didn't necessarily know like, oh, it was going to take us 3 hours to do that Spires. Like we thought we were going to get in there and do it in like 90 minutes max. And then it's like, we wiped to this one random thing, better add it to the list. Then you go back in there and you're like, okay, we're accounting for this thing. Oh, we just wiped to something else. But with Spires, it was like you would wipe like 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
did it feel like a Great Push Theater of Pain having flashbacks?
Yeah. it ended up being fine in Great Push because in the end, our Theater of Pain was like the 26 was like insanely fast. But I mean, that's always kind of the thing that's tough about these is, you could not time a single key for 2.5 hours. And then on the 2.5 hour try, you time the fastest one in the tournament. And then all the hard work was, worth it. So yeah, sometimes like it would start to get on your nerves if you had been in a dungeon for 2 hours and you hadn't put anything on the board. And it's like, oh, geez, like, not this, but yeah,
we saw that on Sunday, right, with Sanguine Depths. What was the experience like of going in there 30 minutes into Sunday and then 3 hours later still not having a time on the board in that dungeon?
Well, I think we grossly underestimated how hard it was going to be. And we decided to go with Shaman, and like it has the extra D curse, it has AG for a ton of healing, it's got better AoE than the Rogue, and it was funny because we started out planning to do our exact same route, but just with a Shaman instead of a Rogue. and it still proved to be impossible. So then we cut the pulls down to be like to the point where it would have been fine if we played Rogue, like because we made the pulls so much easier. But we were already so locked in, and then we pulled out the Druid, and yeah, it was tough. I mean, we had some really hard wipes. Like we had one wipe I remember on the third boss where we pulled Sagadon on a good run, and we had we had a few of those. Oh, we had one run that was going great, and then a random tab target when we were going for explosive pulled some mobs from nowhere, and yeah, so we had, and those are the worst because it's like just this random mistakes that comes out of nowhere, and then you've wasted 15 minutes and you still haven't put a time on the board. Yeah, so that was a tough day, that last day for sure.
Okay, so I guess I have 2 questions. First off, why did you swap from Vengeance to Guardian Druid?
So I guess the main reason was just tank survivability. I mean, it was a bit of a weird decision for me too, because I thought that the Vengeance was surviving fine, but it was okay. It was like we changed 2 variables at once. Like we swapped to the Druid and started making the pulls smaller at the same time. And probably once the pulls were smaller, we would have been fine keeping the Vengeance. But
probably.
In the end, I think having the Druid and the Shaman was okay for this format, like given the time constraints, but definitely wasn't optimal from like a speed perspective or anything.
Okay,
I feel like the Rogue. Sorry, I think the Rogue would have made a big difference for nerf survivability too. Like just numbing poison on mobs is so big.
Yeah, and we already have sweep too because of the monk, so the cap totem doesn't really do too much. And yeah, I agree with you for sure. That like we also lost a lot of time because we didn't pull the fire guy into the first boss, and it's not that was necessarily hard. We just assumed that it was going to be hard, and we never tried it one time. And if you look, that's like that would have been like a 40-second time save or something if we just did that. And so
Omega Pump saved something like 40 seconds doing that. Do you think that Warlock is better than? Do you think that Warlock is better than Rogue and Ellie? Because to me it looked like nobody was playing
for that dungeon?
Warlock. Yeah, for that dungeon on that level. But it looked like Warlock would have probably been the best.
Yeah, probably. Warlock would have been pretty decent at explosive too.
Do you play Warlock?
Onesie could have played Warlock and I could have played Monk. We could have swapped it like that, yeah. But I don't know. Like Shaman actually does really good damage on first, second, and last boss because of the way, like, so long as you have ads around, the prio on Shaman's actually not too bad, and on Warlock it's still pretty mediocre. Like actually in the whole hallway, the Shaman does pretty good boss damage. So it's tough to say, but I think if it were more coordinated, Warlock probably would have been better than Shaman, but not than Rogue.
What do you think about the Kyrian Moonkin that some people were busting out in that dungeon? Do you think that would have been worth thinking about?
So that was one thing that we talked about as a team a lot. Like the Kyrian Moonkin makes it definitely makes the dungeon a lot easier, similar to how Shaman does, because Shaman provides like a lot of this stuff that you don't necessarily need. Same thing with Druid. So like Druid gives you trees, Druid gives you vortex, it kills all the explosives super easily. Enrage Dispel, yeah. And we ended up losing to Omega Pump, who ran the Kyrian Druid. But then when we watched it back, at first we were just like, oh, Kyrian Druid diff. But then when we watched it back and we were analyzing it, we were like, well, did we really lose because of Kyrian Druid or did we lose because of the routing? So in my opinion, it's probably was the play to just run Rogue, Windwalker, Mage, Demon Hunter, and just use their routing, and it would have been like significantly faster. But Kyrian Druid is a pretty cool like pocket pick. I think there is a world where it is the best thing, but only in maybe like one dungeon with certain affixes, maybe. I think.
And like you said, I think the ease of killing explosives is pretty big.
Yeah,
that kind of thing too. So like maybe it would have made them spend less time in the dungeon and have more time for other runs.
We had a few wipes for sure. Like, is normally you just say, oh, explosive is healer job. But then if you randomly have 4 explosives spawn and there's like traps all over the ground that the healer can't walk through, and then all the ranged are just like scrambling if you just had the Moonkin that was just, turreting all the explosives down, we probably wiped 3 times 2 explosives maybe. So
yeah, like Windwalker and Sub Rogue are definitely not great at explosives.
Yeah,
for getting to them at least.
Yeah, that was
I do think you.
Good.
I was gonna say, I do think you need a Windwalker for that dungeon. Though is the problem. Like that, the amount, like 22 fortified. Like you have to have the Windwalker to kill the trash.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, my favorite part about that tournament was the way that in Sanguine Depths, you didn't have enough time to come back tomorrow with whatever the best thing somebody else had. Like you had to. Every team was just coming in and updating based on themselves with it. You didn't have there wasn't going to be another day to plan out more. So it's an interesting thing to think about with the format. But on the other hand, I really liked the way that Aster came back to Spires on Sunday with a different comp and a different route, and blew their old time out of the water and everybody else's time out of the water by a minute in that dungeon, which I don't I don't know how I don't know how to get both of those things for the whole weekend, but that's what I want.
Well, we had talked about that. They ended up using our route exactly, but they swapped the mage for the hunter. And it's that makes sense because at first we planned on pulling. It was the same thing as the multiple variables kind of thing where we had planned on pulling really big, saw that it was going to be too hard with bolstering, so we started pulling smaller. But then you pull smaller and Frost Mage is no good. Then we just didn't. Yeah, it didn't have time to make the change to the hunter. But yeah, it was all in all a good weekend. Oh, and another thing I forgot. A reason why we chose Shaman was because generally Shaman gets more damage as the pull goes on with its Storm Ellie ramp, and so we thought that would be great for raging, relative to some other classes where they would
that's a good point.
Get all the mobs to raging range and then just have no damage. So yeah.
Yeah, I made that point on the broadcast. No big deal. No big deal.
Oh, you did. There you go. There you go.
All right.
Someone posted
the Shaman coming in hot.
Shaman. That character was my main for a tier and a half in BFA. It was good times.
Oh, wait, hold on. Can we call him Dratnos Ham Man?
Dude, okay. Fun story. My character, currently known as Dratnos Shaman, used to be known as Dratnos Lust, but I had to rename it because people kept misreading it.
You're so dumb.
That took me too long.
That is a true story. That's a 100% true story. All right, let's move on to our tip of the week segment. My tip of the week is if you are a guild that is still on progression in Sanctum, the blood set bonus is really, really OP. So don't make people swap to Blood 1 if they've got Unholy 5, but if you've got it at the same level as one of the other sets, or if you're a guild that's you're hoping to get Cutting Edge, which you can do for the next 9 months or whatever, you've got plenty of time to upgrade Blood Set and be using that for prog. And 10 people wearing Blood Set, it's basically the same single target as Unholy for most specs, maybe not for Moonkins or whatever, but for some of the other, for most specs, it's about the same damage on single target, which is what counts. And every 10 people that put one on is basically an extra healer in your raid. It's really, really a lot of healing.
If the whole raid wears Blood Set and a rank 5 cure, do you even need a healer in this raid?
No. It's 1,000 HPS
crazy
per person. Yeah, and it heals somebody else if you're okay, which is the difference between it and the Frost Set. The Frost Set, you should have your rogues and stuff using that because it's just enough more damage for them, and it's also still doing HPS. But for everybody else, the Blood Set, they are never going to be dying, and when they're topped, they're healing other people. It's crazy. But it's a pretty niche market for people that are still on progression, but also haven't have the ability to make this swap. But if that describes your guild, definitely consider it.
Supposedly, blood is bis for sub rogue too for damage, so you can kind of double dip there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bis for a lot of melee, I think. I don't know about the other DPS specs, but single target on it's so good.
Yeah, Windwalker single target, right? It's it's worse than AoE, but it's better on single target.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Trell, you got a big one here. What is your tip of the week?
Well, it's kind of big. It just has to do with stopping channeling abilities in dungeons. So there's always a couple of these around in the dungeons of each expansion. They keep bringing it back. This clip is talking about the, I think, Forsworn Doctrine Inspires is what it's called. And these kinds of abilities are something that you don't want to use your kick for. So you can use your kicks on the more important things like Dark Lash and Burden of Knowledge in that same pool there. So what you do is you wait for the initial cast to finish on the mob, and then it has the channel right after that initial wind-up cast is what people call it. So right as the wind-up cast finishes, you can stop it with basically anything like Paralyze, Sweep, Gouge, Kidney Punch, you know, any kind of stop that isn't a kick. That way you can have more kicks.
Yeah, so it's basically like what is the behavior of this spell? Because it'll still go on cooldown as long as it starts actually that second part of the channel, right? Going down.
Right.
But it's
so the
important.
timing is key, and a lot of people will stop it too soon. It'll recast and they'll be like, oh, it didn't work. It just recast. But certain channels like that always exist, and there's copies of them in other dungeons, like the Collect Sins cast and the Halls of Atonement. It used to be the same with Bucking Rampage, I think, and Mists, and then they changed that to where you can actually stop it before it starts the channel now, which is like a quality of life thing. Luckily, they did that.
Yeah, that was nice because one tick was enough to kill you if you were trying to go in there with like a sweep on a Windwalker. Yeah, you gotta be careful because there are some effects that you do want to like interrupt before they get a single tick off, right? Kel'Thuzad, the Reavers, for example, is one of the best examples of this. You really want to land the kick before it finishes the wind up and it starts doing the tick down. But
yeah, exactly.
It just depends on the mob, right? You kind of gotta get an idea in your head of like when and how does this behave if I kick it or stun it during the wind up or during the channel down.
Another one like that is like the Drain Fluids in Necrotic Wake. Even though you can stop them after they finish the wind up, you might as well kick them before because
it still goes on cooldown as well.
Someone's going to be stunned when they're finished winding up, and they might not be able to stop it.
Yeah. All right. Tettles, shall we take a look at your clip of the week?
JPC is going to have a lot to say about this clip of the week.
All right. What do we got here? Some shenanigans.
Oh, yeah. Did he figure it out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
look at him, he's cheering.
Yeah. Dude, I was sitting in here for like 20 minutes trying to figure this out.
Yeah, we spent like during time trials to qualify for Last Stand. We spent like 8 hours in Miss, and we were still losing to Aster Y, who was already qualified for Global Finals. And we're like, man, like, what are they doing? We even had a second boss where we skipped every single guessing game. And we still lost to their time. And we're like, what the heck? And then someone linked us one of their VODs, and we saw that they were pulling through the maze all over the place. And we were like, that's what it was.
Dude, so, yeah. I went to go look up their VOD, and they deleted it. I was like, what is this?
They said they had meant to delete it, like, right after they did it. They just forgot or something. I don't know.
I needed to save it so bad. Apparently that wall, like not that wall just in particular, but all of the walls in the maze are just not set up for dwarfs for some reason and cat druids. And so there's like
very specific spots where you can Well, I guess can I change my tip of the week?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, because it has to do with Miss, I guess. There is a trinket. So you used to be able to pull through walls with the Tazavesh trinket, but that was quite annoying because you had to wait to get the proc, and the tank ran it, and it wasn't necessarily an optimal trinket for the tank. But there's another trinket, which is really good DPS for agility users called the Shadow Grasp Totem. And it is an on-demand pull through the wall in the Miss Maze. And you can pull...
Really?
And it's not just Miss Maze. You can pull through just about any wall in the game that you want, so long as they're in range. So, fun little tip for you.
That's getting
I hope you know that by saying this here. Yeah, this is going to last for another week tops.
We thought that we would save it for the MDI Global Finals, but it turns out that everyone competing in MDI Global Finals already knows that you can pull just about anything you want with the Shadow Grasp Totem. So, yeah.
Okay, so talking about weird tech, I swear to God that Perplexed team always knows just every single thing, and I don't understand it. They always just know everything.
Well, they probably spend a lot of time in the dungeons, so it took a lot of time to figure stuff out.
They were the first team to do that Clea, like, file shit, where you would reset your necrotic with somebody else using the Clea potion, and then Echo was like watching their run in Halls of Atonement. They're like, how did they get a necrotic reset here? And they were just sitting there for like 30 or like for hours, and then the Perplex guys are just using Clay on a mage randomly.
All right, let's move on to talking about the MDI Global Finals, which is coming the end of this month. It's the Halloween weekend on 29th, 30th, 31st of this month of October 2021. And here is a look at the bracket that we are going to have, which, so of course, JPC on Team Ambition. You have the round one matchup against Perplexed, who are really, really, really good. They were the number one overall seed from Time Trials. And then if you're able to win that one, you'll have the winner of Complexity versus Echo in round two. How do you feel about the bracket that you're looking at here?
I mean, no matter which side of the bracket you're on, if you want to win, you have to be able to beat everybody. But yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's not the way that I envisioned my first MDI Global Finals starting out, but I'm ready for the challenge, so it should be a good time.
Yeah, this is a bracket that has generated some controversy because, of course, the seeding for it is a little bit opaque and tough to figure out how it was all going to work, and not necessarily it wasn't public, the formula that was going to be used for it or anything like that. I still don't think it really is officially anywhere, and so you have, of course, the entire thing just got thrown a huge wrench into it right when Echo lost to Incarnation in their group, and so all of a sudden a team that won and earned better seeding was going to have to play against Echo because Echo was now in that second seed spot, which had this effect of creating the top part of the bracket being very hostile. Although it's not like the bottom part of the bracket is easy either. Aster Y is in there. That's the team that I think Tettles picked to win the tournament. So
haven't picked yet, but that will be the team that I will be selecting.
Yeah, Tettles is definitely a Aster Y fan.
Yeah,
They're good, man.
I have some inside knowledge that apparently they've been, even though they finished their cup like a long time ago, they've been playing 12 hours a day, just random affixes whole time. So,
they played the time trials for the last stand, even though they couldn't compete in it because they'd already won. And they got the first seed on those time trials as well, just for, to have something to direct their 12 hours of daily practice time into. Yeah, so that's going to be... And then, of course, you have Incarnation, who dethroned Echo in the group weekend down there as well, and Obey Alliance and Team Name too. So, I mean, there are no easy opponents in the Global Finals, which is great news for the viewers. It's going to be like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's all all-star games.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I've been more excited for an MDI. I think it's been a couple MDIs.
Yeah. So obviously, without spoiling any kind of secret info about your team strategy, what were your kind of reactions when you were looking at this bracket, and how are you guys going to approach this? Answer as much or as little as you are able to.
Well, I think the only match in the bracket that makes complete sense to me is us versus Perplexed, because us coming in as like the last stand winners should be number 8, and Perplexed winning and having the best time trial should be number 1. So I sort of expected to play them, but no, I don't think anybody on our team expected Echo to play Complexity and have that be on the same side of the bracket as us versus Perplexed. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like I said, it's like, oh man, we wouldn't be going to the Global Finals if we didn't want to try and win, and if we want to win, we have to beat them anyways. So what does it matter if it's the first round or if it's the last round? And it just is the way it is. So we're gonna have to prepare a lot, and no matter what happens, so long as we try our hardest and we feel good about our practice, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, you guys were saying when we were recording one of our GG WoW things yesterday, it was that you never lost a map while you felt like you were playing it well, right? You never got that message in the middle of a good run that said the other team has won. That only ever happened in runs where something was already going wrong, right?
Yeah. So for the viewers of those of you that don't know, when you're playing in the MDI, if you lose when you're not done yet, the administrators send a message in your chat, and it just says the other team has won. Period. And then it's like it feels really bad to get that message, but every time we lost, we made our own personal errors where we could have won if we had just played better, type of thing. But with some of the like with Perplexed, I mean, and if you watch the last global finals, like the Echo versus Perplexed, it almost kind of felt like no matter what Perplexed did, you know, if Echo has a perfect run and Perplexed has a perfect run, and you still get that right, one team has to get that message in the chat. So that'll be, if that's the way we go out, I think I'm fine with that. Yeah.
I agree. Like, as much as it would suck to get that message, right?
Yeah.
At least that's, you know, it's not like off of a run where you had a wipe or whatever, or something go wrong with practice. I'm pretty excited for this tournament as well. I think we're gonna have some really good matches early on. I think the upper finals is gonna be crazy. The lower bracket all the way through is going to be pretty crazy. I think there's a reasonably good chance we get like a grand finals that's a rematch of a round one as well. Maybe not. Maybe it's like Perplexed Echo. I think that's or Perplexed Aster, Echo Aster, something like that. But I could see it actually coming down to like one of these teams makes it through the upper bracket and the other team makes it through the lower bracket of, say, like Complexity Echo or Perplexed Ambition. If you guys are owning those sorts of things, I don't know.
Dude, please say Incarnation team name. Please say it.
Yeah, Incarnation team name, of course. Yeah, I don't know. Basically, just like it's really hard for me to predict what is going to be in which of these matches on the right side of the bracket.
It's so strange to me that Echo's still the favorite to win this whole entire tournament after.
They've got to be, though.
Yeah, that's one thing that's been interesting too, is because if you, well, it's a bit different from a player's perspective, but I think like one way that I personally like to judge the strength of like another MDI team is not, it's based on like their top potential, right? Like if somebody else does a run that's slow, you think in your head, well, we can do that too. But if somebody else puts up a run that you cannot do even on your best run, it's like, wow, that's like really impressive. So I feel like every team pretty much has had mistakes or slow runs, us included for sure, except for Aster and, well, Perplexed had that one necrotic wake that was pretty bad. But aside from the necrotic wake, they've pretty much been solid the whole way through as well. So it's like, if you're looking at it that way, I would say that those would be my two favorites, I suppose. But yeah, it'll be interesting because that's the thing with the head-to-head format, and why I was saying that I like the Last Stand format better is that anything can happen, and there's quite a surprising amount of RNG that can tip the scale of these sort of pulls, like just 3 extra explosives spawning or a mob being 1 foot to the left or something, and the whole pull goes bad. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
One dance of GG proc.
Yeah,
2 dance of GG procs.
Yeah, dude, I remember in Theater of Pain practice, so you get used to like normal damage patterns, and then one time Billy on his monk got 8 GG procs in his Bone Dust brew, and he was doing like almost 200k DPS. We killed the boss like 30 seconds faster. I like, man, if this happens to a team in the finals, I'm gonna feel so bad.
That'd be so good if Swag just rolls up and fucking just, like randomly rinses some team with fucking 300k DPS.
Yeah. The worst thing too is we have like Billy and Onesie and myself are all new to Monk, so we'll see our damage on a pull and be like, oh man, Swag did like 20k more DPS. Is he just like better, or was it a GG proc? Like, it's hard to tell if we have rotational errors or what's going on. Yeah.
I think that actually having like a Monk main on your team has been so valuable for a very long time in the MDI.
Yeah, it's crazy because you guys actually have, all 3 of you do play Monk based on what the other classes you need to play is, right?
Yeah, I have considerably less Monk time than they have at this point, but yeah, we could, any one of us could probably play for the finals.
Do you have any any insight you care to share about how you're going to spend the next month preparing for the global finals? Like, adding stuff like Windwalker or Warlock or whatever to people's collection of specs they can play, or is it going to be focusing on what they've already got? Doing just some general practice runs of dungeons.
I think probably for the rest of this week, we will just be taking it easy. And then once the affixes come out, we'll be playing like all day. And the only real reason I would see me playing Monk is if somehow like Monk, Moonkin, Mage was the Abyss comp in a dungeon, because Onesie would play the Moonkin. But I think it's our team's general philosophy that the Kyrian Moonkin, I don't know, it's tough because we got our brothers over on the other side in Incarnation, but like, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it. I'll wait till they beat us in the finals to be 100% sold.
The upper finals.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Johnny in chat says JPC's answer better be, quote, I intend to spend the next month turning up to recording sessions on Monday.
Oh, no.
Well, that sort of segues us into our next segment where we're going to talk about the path that has led you from being a casual WoW player to Johnny yelling at you about why you're not at a recording session on a Monday. So let's start out at the beginning. When did you start playing World of Warcraft just at all, and what was that like when you first were getting into it?
So I first started playing World of Warcraft in Burning Crusade, and it was like right towards the end of Burning Crusade. I was like, I think I was 11. I might have turned, it was 5th grade. Pretty sure. One of my good friends, his dad was really into computers, and like I always played Xbox growing up. So I went over to his house for a sleepover, and they had these super cool like Alienware desktops. I was like, what is this thing? And he had World of Warcraft because he had an older brother. And so I logged in. I made a hunter, and it took me like 3 weeks. I got my hunter to level 18 in the Ghostlands, and then I couldn't kill that patrolling elite,
the Abomination
22. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I hate this class. And so then I saw like some video somewhere, or someone was saying like rogues are super cool. So I made a rogue, and and then I played the game pretty regularly all the way through the end of Cataclysm. And I had always just done PvP back then. And I never really raided. I went into Dragon Soul for the daggers and the vial, but that was it. And then I didn't play too much of MOP, and I came back a little bit in Legion. I dabbled a little bit. I was playing a bit, and then I played right at the start of BFA, and then I kind of wanted to come back in 8.3. But like my character was already so far behind and everything, and I'd have to get corruption and all this other stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'll just wait till Shadowlands beta comes out, and that's when like it'll be all fresh footing, so I won't be behind. And yeah.
So like when you were playing casually at the beginning of each expansion, especially BFA and probably in 8.3, were you like watching streams and doing research and stuff and like preparing to do all this, or did you just jump straight in with hardly any knowledge in beta?
Well, at the start of BFA, I was not watching really any streams or anything like that. And it's actually kind of funny how I got into raiding. Because I'd never really done it before. I was pugging Heroic Gahoon on the week that it came out. And for those of you that remember, like that first Heroic week, not many guilds killed Heroic Gahoon.
Yes.
And there was a guild from Illidan called No Changes. And I was always on Tichondrius because I always did PvP, and I like learned the mechanics pretty quickly what was going on. And so then he was like, look, if you want to come raid with us, like you can transfer over to Illidan, you can raid. And then from there, some of their raiders went to Wildcard Gaming, and I didn't know too much about like high-end raiding, but I heard it was a good guild, and I was like, dude, give me in the guild. And they were like, well, we'll see what we can do. And that's how I got in there. And that was my first I didn't prog with them at the start of 8.0, but that was my first like raiding experience really. And so I wasn't watching any streams then, but then when I came back in Shadowlands beta, I was doing a lot more research, watching a lot more streams, seeing what was good. It was a bit different though because no one really knew what was good because it was beta.
Yeah. True.
But yeah.
Yeah, so
They did know that 35 sockets were good though. That's something that was known.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh yeah, you could just like put infinite sockets on your
God, I
gear.
forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. We had, I think I had like 18 of them or something, and yeah, just adding to the collection.
So dumb.
Okay, yeah, so you started playing on the beta, having like a little bit of high-end experience but really not very many connections, right? Like you didn't really know anybody, right?
Yeah, not really. I just I can't remember how it all really happened. I mean, there were quite a few people doing keys, but I don't. I remember I was doing keys with like J.B and some other players from Europe, maybe. And then I remember one day I was playing with Mode. And Mode just likes playing the game a lot, and I like playing the game a lot. So we just started playing the game a lot together. And then he had gotten into the Chinese groups, which, like Aster Y, playing with them on beta, and some of these other teams from like Skyline. And they needed a rogue one day. So then Mode invited me. So then I was playing with them. And then somehow I got into like an Echo group with like Jinji and Miraz and all of them. And yeah, that's just sort of how things took off. I always wanted to do high keys because it was more fun than just doing like your 15s on beta or something. And yeah.
Okay, so in this Echo group, did Now say like did he make you do a kick you didn't want to do or something? Did he make you go do some kind of job? Like how did this rivalry start between you and Now?
I don't remember it too much of that. One thing I do remember is they always had like an interesting approach to certain mechanics, and I'll never forget on the last boss in Miss, you used to not be able to interrupt the bug thing.
Oh, that's right.
And so Miraz was like, "Oh, this will be faster," and I get MC'd, and he touch of deaths me and kills me, and then B-reses me.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. I always remember that. But yeah, I don't. We never really had too much of a rivalry or anything, or like it was. I don't know when it came about. Probably when I made that tweet is my guess.
Twitter for
sure.
The
Yeah.
tweet.
You know what's funny is I only made Twitter to tweet at Blizzard CS when I messed up my thing. That's the only reason I made it. And then, yeah, this was just where away from there was pretty funny.
Dude,
so
you were an egg for so long too on Twitter.
those are the good old days. Now I got it on my phone and I'm like on it for like an hour a day. It's a slippery slope.
Twitter is definitely doomed,
Don't
man.
join Twitter,
I swear.
kids.
Okay, and then recently also you joined Limit. How did that happen?
Well, I guess actually that probably goes back to the tweet initially as well. I guess because that probably got Max's attention, and then I don't know. He watched us. I think a lot of guys so some of the guys in Limit used to. Well, the healer Dryny, he used to play in Wildcard when I was in Wildcard, so I'd known him from there. And then I played Classic with some of the guys from Limit, which was before Shadowlands beta. So I'd known a few of them. And then when we did the Great Push and we lost, I think they were a fan of the way that we lost, just saying like Echo had a better strategy and whatnot. And so I think that's how the relationship first formed, I guess. And then I knew that like I was already doing super high end M+, so I wanted to do the same thing for rating. So when this tier came out, I was just gonna focus really hard and try to do the best that I could. And yeah, I guess my performance was good enough, and we had some messages back and forth, and that's how it went.
Dude, okay. So at the GameStop Performance Center, there's like this big ass TV that's in like the lounge area, and if you go to the Racer World first, you'll see it and you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like the Miller Lite Lounge, whatever. And there's like bean bags and like this couch. They always had you on that TV, and Max would walk up doing breaks, and you go, "How's the man doing?"
That's pretty cool. That's actually one thing that I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully, is that the next Race the World verse going in person and playing. I've never done anything like that, so that'll be really fun.
Yeah, you'll like it a bit.
Yeah. All right, then our final question: when are they going to fix serrated bone spike? Do you have any info
Oh
on this
man,
one?
there's okay. I don't want to go too in depth, or I might say something that I shouldn't. But there are so many issues with Rogue, man, and it hurts my heart every day. We could make monks. We could put them to shame on the meters if they just fix some of these things. And I don't know. Actually it's not serrated bone spike though. It's death spike.
Right.
It's the Necrolord legendary. But even still, like they got to uncap outlaw. Rogues are still getting de-stealthed in the miss maze. It's just too much, man. We'd be here for an hour.
This was worse than whenever they wouldn't buff Starfall for 10 years.
Yeah, well, look at you now. You made it.
Notice how I'm not tweeting anything about Moonkin anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna sit here and be quiet.
That's what monks should have done. Instead of complaining about how spinning crane kick wasn't getting uncapped, they all started complaining about that. So now it's getting uncapped. There's no way that class survives. There's no way. There's
no fucking shot.
Yeah.
There's no way that they make Monk broken for the 8th patch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Someone was saying that like on 11 targets, they're supposed to do 2 times as much damage as they do now with their bone dust brew. It's like, okay.
Yeah, fucking right.
Yeah,
that's gonna be insane. They're gonna get murdered, but they better freaking buff the single target amongst after, because that's been suffering for a while.
That's been bad forever.
They're still better than Ellie and Af Warlock though. Windwalker is. We saw JPC battling a little bit with Onesie in the last stand tournament on that Ellie.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, there is a place for Elemental Shaman in high keys still. On certain, maybe only halls. I don't think you would want to play Windwalker in a high halls, but I'm talking like a plus 31 halls or something. But yeah, Windwalkers are just like crazy dominant. And the other thing that's insane is they're just as dominant in PvP. No one likes them in PvE or PvP. So something's got to be done.
I know every time I see like a spinning crane kick icon on Twitter, I always have to click on it and think, is this going to be a PvE or a PvP meme? And then I'm like, oh, this one's PvP.
Are they worse than Holy Paladins?
Yes.
I don't know. Holy Paladin's pretty.
Is that possible?
We've actually been having discussions on the team that Holy Paladin might not be BIS anymore in certain keys. That it might be. It's time to bow down to the Resto Shaman supremacy in certain keys. So,
maybe.
Whereas Windwalker,
for live or for MDI?
For live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So you're like, I don't know, man. I don't know how you've had this one.
Yeah,
I feel like that is probably the case on some fort keys, huh? So because like the AoE damage from Resto Shaman's pretty damn good, but on tyrannical keys, I feel like HPAL's damage is just unmatched on single target.
You have to push every boss. It's so stupid.
Well, the one thing that we noticed was because this season you have the anima powers doing so much more of your player's damage. Like a lot of times in previous high keys last season, you skip the prideful anyways. So in essence, the anima power damage is like free damage. You don't even necessarily need the paladin damage to like get you through the boss. Or like if you look at the tyrannical 29 wake that Andy's team did, their last boss was like 7 minutes long. Right. And the Holy Paladin would have made it 6.5 minutes long or something. It's still, you still just have to be able to survive. So, yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah. How high do you think you guys are going to push after MDI? What's the highest key you think is possible?
I think
32.
the highest live key would be lower than the highest key you would see in like a great push setting, like a tournament realm setting.
Yeah.
But I think easily 30s will get done. Whether or not a 31 gets done on a live key just depends on like if you manage to do it on the one try, you get lucky and get the 31 that you want to get. But I could see on like the tournament round practice leading up to the great push, I could see like 31 Plaguefall, 31 Wake, especially because like they're not even using Shadow Priest yet for the Necrotic Wake, or they're not using like certain stuff like that, which is kind of mandatory for the hierarchy.
Like a comp swap thing that you can only do on great push setting on turning around.
Yeah. I could see like 30 halls getting timed. I could see not too many others. I don't think not too many others, but halls, Plaguefall, Wake seem like the 30s you'd see, and then you'd probably see 31 or 32 Wake.
I'm in the same boat. I think we'll see like maybe 1 or 2 31s on live. Maybe.
Yeah, I would bet against it, but I think it's definitely like it's possible. I just don't. I think you'll get like 3 teams will attempt it, and I don't think any of them will make it happen, but it could. That's my guess. All right, let's move on. We've got some questions to get to before we're all done here, but first, get to read out some of the Patreon supporters we have over at patreon.com/Titanforge. They are HGC is now 8 out of 10 real guild now. Congratulations. Hitachi Vibes of US Tichondrius. If the devs are handing out comeback candy, can we get Great Vault Can't Give Me Loot I'm already wearing unless it's a second one-handed weapon? Next. Buff Laser Chickens? No. Dratus Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Never Nude, Chewy. Twitch earnings total thoroughly leaked exposes streamers, or Tettles.
Not on that list.
Tettles not on that list, by the way. Yeah, I control it. I was trying to find him to flame him, but he's just not even on the list. So sad. Delete underscore.
That says a lot about me.
Delete underscore gaming says the best flirts are all orcs. It's not AMZ, it's AMZ. Salty Senny, Necris, Tank Dill, Nevuk, Bread Ceratops, Sidmora, Eevee, Frosty K, new meta for off meta competition. Take Blood to the Protector and Frenzied Regen off the GCD. Oh yeah, the off meta competition. That's like Raider IO's running up this week. If anybody's trying to
Yeah,
meta
they're using a picture of you for their
because I wrote the stuff about like how those specs would work. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them. Okay, where was I? No Trick. I scheduled a Tettles Flame. Diemat. Don't join Tettles' Cutting Edge Guild. They are actually only AOTC. You were lied to. That's a common misconception. They are cutting edge. They're just not Hall of Fame. If you don't have Bubble Wand macroed into your abilities, are you even a gamer? Nyx. I know I said it was Curran's birthday last week, but I was wrong. It's really this week. Happy birthday, Curran. Gallic, Brusif, Drownos Abyss. It's not lying, it's tactical recruiting. That's when Tettles said last week to just lie about how your guild is going to do.
We're re-asking the same question for JPC to answer.
Oh, what was the question? It was
It's down there in the Q&A.
Okay,
we're re-asking.
We'll get to it when we get there. Let me just finish the names then. M Sanity, Xena, We Are Praying Hanny will pump in 9.1. That should be 9.2 now. I'm sure it'll happen at some point. Rogue is now good enough for Prog, but still bad enough to be sat for SLG. Bless up. That should be Kel'Thuzad now as well. We might editorialize some of these to update them to keep the spirit if people don't mind. Red Color, youtube.com/workbringer. Walking Atlas has 2250 dungeon score, but is only a 9 out of 10 heroic. Hey, that score keeps going up every week though. Grats.
Big.
Ahar of US Proudmore. Koze's mythic team is trash cans and not trash cans. Alphabet Soup. Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming. Number 1 Simsky for Trelsky. Lolari. Cloric's disrespect for key levels. He is yet to complete. Makes every pull a pull for science. That one dude RP walking in Arathi Basin Cromstomp. Milk. Narnar, the Marsh Hare. Soji is the number 1 little green man on US Thrall. Tim ist der Geilst. I pronounced that completely differently than I did last week, but we'll go with it. Healer main in Cutting Edge Guild who asked to play Monk for the start of the tier, got told okay, and is now main tank playing Brewmaster, so technically not lied to. Yeah, you gotta be very, very specific in your language or else you'll find yourself in tank prison, that's for sure. Okay, Q&A. Our first question comes from Slaggy in Discord. So this is the question we got last week that Tettles inflamed the world with his creative
people
answer.
are mad.
I actually haven't looked at the comments from last week's video, but I'm sure it's there's righteous indignation at Tettles. So the question is, as patches draw on my guild's attendance for raid, and they're progressing Heroic Sylvanas right now. Okay, sorry. So as patches draw on, my guild's attendance has gone down, or on any given week, we can have from 9 to 14 players. We're trying to recruit more, but nothing seems to work. Guild Finder doesn't return anything. Trade chat spam brings people that leave shortly after getting gear. What are good ways to recruit players that will stick around in your guild? JPC, as somebody who was in that casual, I guess not really, but were you ever in like those sorts of casually raiding situations? And even if not, do you have any advice for somebody in this situation? And then we'll compare your answer with Tettles' last week.
So I've never not rated Mythic, but one thing I can say that Limit is currently doing, because we are having similar, not quite the same problem, but like,
We are too, yeah.
yeah, where, you know, players just it's just kind of like, man, we really got to show up for raid. We've started doing only 6 or 7 out of 10 bosses, or sometimes even 3 out of 10 bosses, where we will still kill like KT and Sylvanas, but we'll just skip the fights that we don't want to do. So we want to make sure that every single raider shows up, wanting to have fun. So, for example, like Fate Scribe, no one wants to do Fate Scribe, so we just don't do it, or Remnant and that sort of thing.
You could do that on Heroic too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that on Heroic too. So.
Yeah. I like that. I like that answer. Tettles' answer was to just lie to people and say you were going to start Mythic soon to get them to come to your raid.
Well, that might work in the short term. I don't know.
Well, it's better than killing your guild. It's better than killing your guild, to be fair.
I guess.
I'm currently trying to convince my guild to stop pulling Fate Scribes, so I'm going to clip this and back my evidence up with it.
Yeah.
My guild one night cleared this week in 3 hours. I'm very happy.
Whew.
We don't have to come back. Thank God.
We did too. It was nice.
My guild cannot kill Kel'Thuzad in under an hour every single week. It's just like every single week it's like we're doing like twice as much damage in one of the phylactery phases and half as much damage in one of the other ones, and like one of the Banshees is dying in 10 seconds and one of them's dying in not at all. I don't know. It's crazy to me. But also I'm not in for Kel'Thuzad ever, basically, because I already got all my loot from that boss, so I'm just sitting there on the sidelines like, yeah, you guys take as long as you want. I got my popcorn over here. This is great.
I actually wiped my raid on Kel'Thuzad once this week because I pressed a second Dance of Chi-Chi proc on one of the Reavers too close, and it just instantly died. I was like,
you fool.
All right, next question comes from King Brano on Twitter, who asks, what is your favorite class, JPC, that you've picked up for tourneys, and what's your favorite things to do in WoW nowadays?
I think my favorite class has got to be Elemental Shaman, because I swear it is just like the most AFK thing, and I do like 100k DPS for free. I'm not in any danger at all. I'm just having fun. Yeah. Well, it would probably be Monk if I were better at Monk. I just haven't got to play Monk enough yet. But yeah, Shaman's pretty fun. Lets me play Enhance and Raid too. I just recently started doing that a few weeks ago.
Okay. Those streams, though, by the way, I didn't mean to cut you off, but those streams where you were learning to play Ellie and Shadow Priest, were so good.
Oh yeah, those were
so good.
The problem is I had never had to do any sort of like resource management, like Maelstrom or Insanity or anything, so I wasn't used to that. And then like I never historically really had any weak auras, so I didn't have like the Earth Shock, the Earthquake Changer thing. Yeah, it was not good. Before, like, we made it over the hump, right? So now it's a bit easier for me to learn classes.
Yeah, once you learn the first few, it's actually, it like opens up the door, right? Like once you learn 2 or 3 specs, you can learn pretty much any spec, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And it was also a big adjustment going from like melee to ranged, whereas like now that's out of the way too. I have to learn another range or something.
All right, next question comes from Martin on Twitter, who asks, what is stuff we normal people pushing 21s and 22s? I will say that the definition of what key level normal people push is hotly contested based on whatever everybody listening is pushing themselves. But what is stuff that those sorts of people should learn from MDI to improve their own gameplay, besides forcing their healer friends to roll Holy Paladin, which I think we would dispute as being the right way to push 21s and 22s also. Yeah, JPC, do you want to take a first swing at your advice for this one?
Yeah. There's not too many similarities between probably what we do in MDI 21s and 22s and what groups doing 21s and 22s probably do with those. But we do use our kicks a lot, so you guys should probably try and make a habit of that as well. I think a big thing, if you're trying to get better at keys, like seriously, is just owning up to your mistakes. Like a lot of times I'll watch groups not pug keys, but they'll be progressing and they'll be doing like a 23 or 24, and like they'll blame the reason that they depleted on XYZ thing when really it was like, nah, like you made a mistake kind of thing. And I think one thing that I love playing with my team about is because when someone makes a mistake, it's usually like, oh, yep, that was me, my bad, go again, won't happen again. And I think that's a big difference in a lot of the top players is like they're pretty quick to identify like that was my bad. I'll try and fix the problem. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of teams in the 21 to 22 range could probably use that.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right that you like
Absolutely.
you definitely see a lot of players that 100 different wipes could happen, and like 0 to 1 times would the thing they identified be something under their control, and it's almost
Yeah.
always like, oh, okay, yeah, I screwed that up, but that wasn't what caused the wipe. It was all these other things. I agree. I
Also,
think good mindset.
I was about to say, also very infrequently are you actually going to deplete a key due to like low DPS or just the inability to be able to time the key relative to the key level. Most of the keys, especially this season, you're going to have enough damage for if you are playing proper strategies, you're using your cooldowns at the correct time, and you have everything set up in advance to be done correctly, and it just comes down to that preparation. I think that's probably the biggest similarity between MDI and like live keys is just making sure that you're prepared for every single little thing.
All right, next question. Back to JPC's origin story. What is the story behind the man in JPC the man? Your handle everywhere.
Well, when I first made my Instagram when I was like 12 or 13 or something, James was taken and JPC was taken. So I was like, I guess I'll just JPC the man. And that's what my Instagram was. And boom, that's how it came to be. And then Max was like the man, and that's how it happened.
Were you also
It's a
buff
good
when you-
meme.
I had a friend growing up. My best friend was like Jack when we were like 14 years old. And I was like, what the hell? How? He just had really good genetics, I guess, but you got really into the fitness. Were you like that too? I know you work out a lot.
I was actually always pretty lean, a lot more lean than I am now, because I played soccer growing up. But I didn't really actually start working out till like senior year of high school or so. So yeah, I had good genetics the whole time growing up, but I didn't really start working out till I was a bit older.
I have a question. Why did you post a video of you benching 2 years ago on Twitter at Gingy with it?
That was actually like 4 years ago. Okay? That was a long time ago. I can't even remember why I posted that. Sometimes
so fucking stupid.
Sometimes I just have something pop into my head and I think, you know what, that'd be really funny. And then in retrospect, I'm like, man, I don't know why I did that, but I did it.
That's like Twitter in a nutshell, though.
It was really good because then people were like, why is he tweeting this at Gingy? Because it was like prefaced with, yeah, this is a video from 3 years ago or something.
It was something about Great Push, I think. I would need to go back and look at it.
Good tweet.
I say a lot of things, all right?
All right. Next question comes from Symphony in Discord, who asks, question for JPC, aka the man, aka James. As a fellow rogue enthusiast, I've been playing the class and mainly Outlaw since I picked the game back up in BFA. And I have a question coming for 9.1.5. What do I reroll to?
So the way it's looking is definitely sub is probably the way to go next patch if it's getting uncapped. But I still think there's a place for rogue in the meta. Don't betray and go over to the turquoise crew. Don't do that. You still got a home with rogue. But yeah, it's probably gonna be sub rogue.
All right, 2 questions left here. One is from War and Peace in Twitch chat, who asks, what advice would you give to someone wanting to break out of the normal and heroic raid scene and start on Mythic? Finding it hard to leave friends I've had for years to get some extra item levels, but it is content I've always wanted to try. I'm not sure if this is something that you have really an answer for, since you said you've just basically always raided Mythic. But if you do, fire away.
Well, technically, like when I was doing that heroic pug Uldir, I wasn't in a Mythic raiding guild. Like that was my invite to a Mythic raiding guild. But I would say in general, you have to take it on yourself to try and like learn the mechanics for Mythic and like better yourself as a raider, I guess. Like it kind of it kind of gets down to like the reason of why you want to play the game. Like I think it's great to have friends to play with, and you can still play with them, right? You can still do M+ with them or PvP, or you could even go to their raid if you want to. But I think if you are looking to get the more competitive side of the game, and that's what's important, then that's what you need to make your goal, and you need to like it takes some time outside of the game. You have to like watch some videos on how to do the raid and watch some guides and look at some logs and stuff, but it's worth it in the end.
I would also say that just as a starting point, you should be on a really big server. You should, like, if you're NA, you should either be on Illidan or Area 52, and that way you could get invited to like some of the entry-level mythic guilds, because there are entry-level mythic guilds, and it's not it's not like a job where you need like 10 years of experience. You can actually, these are entry-level mythic guilds where you can start to dip your toes into it. And like JPC said, you're not losing your friends just because you're joining a different guild. Those are still going to be your friends.
Yeah, it is something you have to decide, like, do I want to raid with my friends or do I want to raid Mythic? Because very rarely are you going to be able to take your friends that don't currently raid Mythic and bring them with you. That's usually not an option.
And you're always going to be able to make new friends too.
True.
Yeah.
All right, our final question comes from J.B, who asks, what is it like to be able to play your main in the MDI?
Well, it has been quite relaxing compared to the Great Push. Like in Great Push, I had to do my share of learning classes. Now I just get to chill. So that's good. And I also wasn't expecting to be able to play Rogue. Like first, I thought that I was going to be on Monk the whole time. So I'm chilling. It's a bit unfortunate for him, but it looks like he's got to play his Resto Druid quite a bit too. So
that's true. He got to play quite a few MDIs.
Yep.
You just tell your team you're playing it, and what are they going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They do say no?
Yeah. Lob you a week before the tournament? No way, no shot.
It's kind of crazy looking back on the history of Resto Druid and seeing like how much damage it used to do during MDI kind of pulls, and now like it can't keep up with other healers. There's no way.
Yeah, because you used to be you'd shift into cat form, right, and you were doing like a lot of damage, right? And your tank was fine. Yeah. All right.
And then you could heal through everything while all your bleeds and dots were still ticking. But
yeah.
You pre-hotting, right, as well as like I mean those things were really powerful back then. You didn't need to like cast on people in the middle of the pool as much.
Well, I would say that's how like Resto Druid honestly should be. Like Resto Druid should be, if they are in cat form trying to do or potentially even Moonkin form, if they are like prioritizing offensive power, they should be doing more damage than like Holy Paladin and Disc Priest. And it's like the same thing that I feel like goes for Resto Shaman, Holy Priest. Like if they're trying to prioritize damage, that should definitely be more than like these passive damage healers that we currently have right now that are at the top still.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Discs should always do a baseline damage, and then Resto Druid should be doing less if they're trying to heal and more if they're trying to do damage. Anyways, that is going to be the last question we have here. Thanks so much for coming on the show this week, JPC. Good luck in the global finals. Where can people find, your Twitch and stuff? Twitter?
Twitter.com/JPCtheman. Twitch.com/JPCtheman _ unfortunately. Instagram, JPCtheman, pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Very good. Good to have everything under the same name. Thanks again, and we will be back next week with another one. Bye, everybody.
Peace.